All right, welcome in everybody. Meet me at the Coffee Pot podcast. Picks week 13 picks are up, so go check that out if you haven't seen that one. And we're joined here by special guest Gene Merriman. Gene was on the NBA offseason show that we did, and today we're going to talk quarterbacks. We're going to talk NFL, and we're going to talk quarterback situation from our favorite teams and kind of around the league. I know that Rios has been burning with some hot, spicy takes on the Jared Goff situation, and I kind of have some thoughts on that too. So
I don't think they're that hot. They're pretty popular among our fan base, I think.
they're just
But
like,
before we go
yeah.
into that, I have some lookups from yesterday. Two things.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
hit me with the lookups.
MetLife, very open stadium, the most open stadium of all time, maybe.
Never had a roof.
No, not at all. Also, this year's Steelers, I went as back as like the 70s. They're definitely the worst 11-0 team until then. The only like maybe close one is I was gonna say the Panthers, but they went to the Super Bowl, so I can't even say that. I think the Steelers are the worst 11-0 team as far as I can think back.
I think you're right, and I think Wikipedia is awesome for just like having that ready to go.
Yeah, I googled 11-0 teams, and they're like, here's a list of the team that went undefeated the longest for the past infinity seasons.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, like I said yesterday, I don't want to knock them too much because like good teams win close games, and they've been in a lot of close games this year. But we'll see. I feel like as a fan of an AFC team, Kansas City strikes a lot more fear into your heart than the Steelers, but they are undefeated.
I mean, they are undefeated, but if you look at their competition, I mean, they haven't really faced an elite quarterback.
They have the worst strength of schedule in the NFL.
They got Phillip Rivers coming up, though, so maybe he can slap him around a little bit.
And then Josh Allen after that, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. Yeah, they do have a tough stretch coming up, so we'll see if they're for real, I guess.
Yeah, probably not.
Maybe not.
I actually want them to go undefeated and then watch them fail in the playoffs. I live off of that kind of misery. All right.
It fuels you.
Yeah. Where do you guys want to start?
I want you to start, and I want you to talk about Jared Goff.
Ugh. All right. So after, I don't know if you guys saw like the McVay's post-game interview. Probably not, because I'm probably the only one that watches those. He did say, and it was all over the news. He was all over like Sports Center and stuff. He said, the quarterback needs to take better care of the ball. And everyone, blew it out of proportion. Was like Sean McVay's calling out. They cut that quote. They said he's calling out Jared Goff. He immediately afterwards said, we need to start taking care of the ball better, like in one sentence. So I think they're pretty much the same page. And
yeah, I don't listen to like Rams specific stuff, and just listening to national sports talk radio, I heard that cut out of the post game press conference, and I heard that.
Yeah. Here's the thing about Jared Goff. Like, we've had him for 4 years now. Like, we know what he is, and he's a system quarterback. He's part of McVay's system, and that's what we're gonna get. That I'm okay with that. Am I okay with the amount of money we paid him? Probably not. We probably went a little early on that, but I'm okay with him as a quarterback. We've proven that we can get to the Super Bowl with him, and I don't think that he is the issue. I mean, recently, the issue has been turnovers, and that's how we lost to Miami, and that's how we lost to San Francisco. It had nothing to do with – that was the game. We don't turn the ball over 2 times. He threw a pick six to a lineman, I think, in both games, which –
that's a record. That's got to be a record.
That's the worst. I hate throwing pick sixes to defensive linemen. But he, I think, a lot like Baker Mayfield, I think, is a good comparison there. If you get the running game going, Jared Goff off of play action, I think, is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And I'm pretty sure there's stats to prove that, but I didn't really look at him. I like Jared Goff. I just think that we need to get the running game going. I don't even look it up, but the amount of times we were throwing the ball last week, I get it, we were losing, but it doesn't matter. When we played against Buffalo, we were losing, and we kept running the ball. And that opened up the play action, and that's what we have to do. We don't have the fastest receivers, but our receivers are talented, and if they get those double moves going, our offense is awesome when we have the running game going. That's what I think. I don't think all the blame is on Jared Goff. I think he needs to take care of the ball better for sure. But I think also McVay's trying to do this thing with, 3 different running backs. He's got Malcolm Brown, Cam Akers. And I think what he needs to do is just focus on one, just run the ball with one running back, put in whoever he wants to be a second running back in on third down like every other team. He's trying, I think, to mimic like this 3-headed monster running back combination thing that San Francisco is doing, and I don't think that's working for us. I think we just need to run the ball. I think with the rookie Cam Akers, and see where that leads us, But definitely need to run the ball more.
Do you think the Rams missed Todd Gurley?
Honestly, no. I think his contract was more of a burden than anything else. And I mean, if you look at last season, we didn't even use him that much. I wish we would have ran him more. And isn't he hurt again? He's already hurt, right?
Yeah, I know he's out. He's in Atlanta now.
Yeah,
but
he's hurt because I know that because Wyoming running back Brian Hill is getting the start this week.
Yeah, so he's injured right now, and I think I think obviously he was the most talented running back we've had, but he's so injury prone, and we couldn't use him the way we wanted to. So I don't mind him being on. I actually really like Cam Akers. I don't know if you guys saw him play down at FSU, but the dude's a monster. He had a little bit of a fumble problem also down there, but other than that, he was awesome down there. Or I guess down here now.
I know coming out of college, he put up impressive numbers at the combine, and I know he showed some flashes and really impressed people. So I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes the bell cow, the feature back for the Rams. And I think that, like you said, I think that might benefit their offense. So I think there's pros and cons to running that running back by committee approach.
Yeah.
Some people get hot when they get more carries and they get warmed up throughout the game. So that'd be a good thing for the Rams to do, feature Cam Akers more.
Yeah, I think they should.
What concerns me about Goff is he's regressing. I think he's regressing. And statistically he's regressing. Statistics don't always paint the whole picture. But it seems like you said, like he's good enough. He's shown to be good enough before to get you to the Super Bowl. So is it like how many years does of not improving or actually regressing does it buy you when you lead a team to the you win the NFC? Like that's kind of the question I think Rams fans need to grapple with. And I would just be nervous being
fan. I mean, it's been happening across the league where you have a quarterback have an awesome season, they give him a huge contract, and then you wish you did it. I mean, the same thing happened in Philadelphia, I think, with Carson Wentz, where he got a monster contract off of his one season. And I think what has to happen is eventually, like, a team is going to have to stop paying quarterbacks huge contracts based on one season. Like, I think probably Baker Mayfield's going to be like, hey, I want $30 million. And they're going to be like, maybe not, because we've seen it not go well across the league.
The only statistical category that Jared Goff is having a good year in relative to his other career years is completion percentage. He's down on touchdowns percentage. He's up on interception percentage. He's down on yards per attempt. He's down on rating. He's down on yards per game. He's up on sacks. I feel like it's a concerning trend. And I don't know. He doesn't seem like the guy enough to not start really thinking about investing in the future, like through the draft or something.
I do think what hurt us is the big contracts, his contract, Gurley's contract. Our offensive line isn't as good as it was, for example, 2 years ago when we did go Super Bowl. We lost Brandon Cooks. We lost, obviously, Todd Gurley. We talked about.
Roger Saffold.
We lost
He's
Roger.
Yep.
He's in Tennessee now, I think. But
Goff's the man through 2024.
And even this season, Andrew Whitworth was having an awesome year. He was, I think, the top-rated left tackle in the league when he got injured. So our offensive line isn't where it used to be, and obviously our weapons around him aren't all that. I mean, our receiving core is still awesome, I think, but So losing Brandon Cooks, I was going to talk about this also. That kind of takes away our deep threat. Like, I don't think we don't have like a fast guy that's going to run down the field and take the top off the defense like we used to with Brandon Cooks. And if you look, I think they took one shot like over 30 yards against San Francisco. And that's another thing that I think the Rams need to do is take more deep shots. And that's going to open up all the, the under games. So all of McVay's scheming, with the fly motion and the wide receiver screens that he throws a million of every game. I think in order to get those going, he also has to take more deep shots. And he took one, I think, last week.
Yeah, it's really interesting with the Rams because I think with all the success they've had roster attrition.
Yeah.
Some guys are getting paid to go other places, and now they have to fill holes. Once you start paying premium positions like quarterback, pass rusher, corner, all of a sudden you have to start building your roster from the draft and undrafted free agents, and you're limited with what you can do in free agency. And I think that's what the Rams are going through right now, where they're seeing roster attrition from that Super Bowl run.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I think the Rams also have a history of overpaying guys way too early, and it's really, it really catches up to you eventually. I mean,
side note, I don't think you should ever give the second big contract to a running back. Like, even though there will be a rare exception that proves that statement wrong, I think it is proven enough that it's just like, if I was a GM, I would never do it.
I mean, yeah, but it was like, when they paid Todd Gurley, he was probably the best running back in the league.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying
no one
you feel great about the fact that you got the best running back in the league for cheap, and then you go with it, and then you move on.
Yeah, based on the cap rules, though, I think if you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal, I think you can afford to spend money on a premium running back. But like with every running back contract, it's team friendly. You can get out of it easily, like most NFL contracts. So you're not really locked in with anybody.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, they probably gone all in on Gurley and then ran him, 60%. I don't know of the carries next season. Either way,
there's just like it seems like an endless stream of big contract running backs who then you kind of wish you had. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott's like the poster child for that, but Todd Gurley is one too.
Well, it's interesting though because I feel like Sean McVay he came from the Shanahan tree, or was him and Kyle Shanahan were with the Washington football team. And I think they both, kind of have the same philosophy of running the football. Like, I feel like they get production from everywhere. I mean, right now the Rams are top 10 in rushing yards. So it's like with what they're doing, it seems like it is working, especially running the football. So.
Yeah, I think also, our fan base, I think like most fan bases in the sports world are quick to overreact. And, this was everyone's freaking out after the San Francisco game, and they've had our number. They're, a divisional rival. We know each other very well. And the fact that, they stopped us, and I think that's more of them knowing us. They're the only team that I'm worried about. Obviously you don't want to play the Saints or the Packers because they're good teams, but I'd be more worried about, if it comes down to the playoffs, I'd be more worried about playing San Francisco. I think they know us better, and they've proven that they can stop our offense. I think our offense, they've been doing pretty well overall. And, it helps that we have a good defense and an awesome punter. So, our field positions usually we start with pretty good field position. That helps a lot. But our offense isn't as bad as last week made it look.
I think you've made a lot of good points, and I stood next to Sean McVay at the airport in the customs line for like a half hour once, and so we kind of know each other. And so if you want, I can go ahead and pass on a lot of kind of those things you were thinking of.
You should have asked him about Todd Gurley. What was going on last season for me? That would have been
I should have. If it wasn't like the worst place to be on earth, which is like the customs line at LAX at like 11 o'clock at night, I should have just been like, dude, I'm sorry, but like, can I please have a picture with you? And then just like no context have sent it to you. That's what I should have done. But
that would have been awesome. Yeah. Is he short? feel like he's pretty short.
He's not. I wouldn't say he's short. He was definitely shorter than me, but you wouldn't think he's short.
Okay.
I also I was in the waiting area for a flight to Minneapolis from Denver, and there was a guy who looked really, really familiar with me. And I'm actually like not a big fan of taking pictures of people without their consent, but I was like, I have to know who this is. So I took a picture of him and I sent it to Gene and our friend Josh. And I was like, who is this? This person's famous. And I was like, is it Luke Kennard who plays for the Detroit Pistons? And they were both like, dude, I don't know who that is. And then he sat behind me, and then I was like, that's the starting quarterback of the Broncos. That's Trevor Siemian. And it was really funny, and I could not figure out who it was.
I promise you, if I ran into Trevor Siemian right now, like at a grocery store, I would not recognize him.
Yeah. If I wasn't living in the Denver market, I wouldn't have.
Former Pro Bowler Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, sorry. Ooh.
I'd recognize I'd recognize the Broncos quarterbacks now. Definitely Drew Lock, definitely Blake Bortles.
What's the chances he's still in the league?
Trevor Siemian?
Mm-hmm.
I think he is. He is on the Titans practice squad, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to say he's probably on practice squad somewhere.
On November 20th, 2020, New Orleans Saints signed Siemian off of the Titans practice squad.
Ooh.
It's close.
Man, see, I want to talk about the Saints quarterback situation. That throws a whole nother wrench into it.
Yeah, that's perfect.
It could be the Siemian era.
I think he's probably a better quarterback than whatever they're running right now. They're running a wildcat right now.
Do you want to talk about that now? Do you want to talk about the Saints?
I mean, we're already here.
I think the Saints should be starting Jameis Winston while Drew Brees is out. And here's why. Okay. They're starting like some like punt returner tight end. Okay. And he can win games, and he has won games. The Saints have played the Falcons and the Broncos in back-to-back weeks. The Falcons have been playing better, and they're my lock of the week. No big deal. But the Broncos were playing, well, like you said, like the seventh string wide receiver at quarterback. So those were two extremely winnable games. And so it's like, if you're going to see if what you have in Jameis Winston, who is potentially the future. Now, I feel like I'm higher on Jameis Winston than a lot of people. And we'll get into him when we talk about the Colts, because I wanted him to be a Colt for a minute too. But it's like, say what you want about Taysom Hill, and he's won the games, good for him, but he's not the future, right? He's not the quarterback who's going to take over for Drew Brees. And Jameis Winston could be. He like really could be, because it's a different system than they were running in Tampa. The dude has thrown for a zillion yards and 30 touchdowns and picks, right? 30 picks too. First NFL player to do that. But it's like, that is obviously a ball of talented clay that you could potentially mold into being a quarterback going forward. And it's like, if it, for some reason, Taysom Hill is Sean Payton's like little pet project that he just like so badly wants to work that he won't let it go. And it's so obvious to me that they should be starting Jameis Winston right now to see if they actually have a real quarterback for the future.
I mean, Jameis Winston was also playing in Bruce Arians' offense, which throws a lot of interceptions. They take a lot of deep shots.
Yeah, it's a great point.
So I think, obviously 30 interceptions is a lot, but that number is inflated based on that offense that they're running. I agree with you. I don't think Taysom – I think he should be doing the thing that he was doing with Drew Brees, and they should be going in there and, using Taysom Hill to surprise defenses and do crazy things. If you go back to last season, I think Teddy Bridgewater went 6-0, I think, when Drew Brees wasn't in. So they can win with the passer. They don't need to have this crazy, Swiss Army knife is what they call them at quarterback. They can win. The talent's there. Alvin Kamara's a beast. That whole offense is
The defense has been playing great too. And that's the thing. It's just like the stretch that they had after Brees went down was Falcons, Broncos, Falcons, Eagles. Like 4 super winnable games. You're not gonna ruin your season by playing Jameis Winston. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. I don't know what Sean Payton's doing.
I think I respectfully disagree with you guys. I don't think I think they should stick with
the future.
Because, I think right now, collectively as a unit, with the Saints. I think they're playing good defense. They're running the football. They have a stud wide receiver, and it's working. I don't see why you go to Jameis Winston if you're winning football games. Do I think Taysom Hill has a short leash? I do think he does. If
I think his leash is longer than you think because Sean Payton loves him so much.
But once he starts losing games for you, I mean, obviously, like Winston's going to come in. But I do believe there's somewhat of like a project vibe to it where Sean Payton wants to prove people wrong. That Taysom Hill, they paid him for a reason. He's a quarterback. But I'm not a Taysom Hill fan, but I think he should be playing over Jameis Winston because I think he's a good coach, and I think if Jameis Winston's outperforming Hill in practice, Winston would be playing, and I haven't heard anything otherwise. So
I would normally agree with you. But for some reason, like Sean Payton wants so badly to incorporate Taysom Hill into the offense that I think he's like finally like, this is our chance. This is our chance, Taysom. We can make you the NFL player we always thought you could be, buddy. And then he was like, go out there. I don't know. So I mean,
the competition they faced, it's the Broncos. I mean, they didn't have an offense. Then you have the Falcons who, they lost to the Bears. So, I mean, it's like one of those things where the competition to evaluate Taysom Hill, I mean, it's not the best competition. So I'm not sure what the remaining schedule looks like, but they'll be challenged. Taysom Hill will be challenged at some point because NFL defensive coordinators will figure it out. And that's when we might see Jameis Winston.
But that's kind of my point. Don't you think it'd be better to ease Jameis Winston into the starting role in your system against the Broncos than like once the other NFL defenses have figured out your starter and now you're like, oh, okay, well, we're finally playing a good team. Good luck, Jameis.
And that's possible. But I also think Taysom Hill's been in the system for a while too. And I think Sean Payton, not only from a project perspective, he thinks Taysom Hill, can make it work, but I think he's probably more comfortable and trusts him more.
He's been on the punt return system for a while.
Yeah. He's been a wide receiver, running back, tight end, punt return, kick return, long snapper.
I like him. I like a guy. I actually think it's really cool to just have a super athletic dude who can run all over the place and do everything. I just think that it's kind of a wasted opportunity to see if you might want to invest in Jameis Winston. Well, I mean, Drew Brees could be done this year. This could be it. Where are you going to go next year? You going to go Taysom Hill next year? Game 1?
I think one thing you guys failed to bring up was his age. He's 30 years old. So it's like the future of Taysom Hill, 30 years old, gadget player. I don't know if I'd go that route.
Yep, I just looked up his age to bring that up, and you're right. He turned 30 this season. I wouldn't go that route either. And if I think I'm not going to go that route, it's like I want to know what I got,
Yep.
Why is this? All right, where are we going next? How old is Jameis Winston? He's probably not old.
26, 27.
He's 26. Yep. I wonder where he'll end up next year.
He's on a 1-year deal?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sure he'll return. So Teddy Bridgewater, didn't he play a couple years with New Orleans?
Yeah. He did.
So what's next, Josh Allen or Phillip Rivers?
We can talk Josh Allen.
Save the best for last then.
Okay, sure. Okay. Here's the thing about Josh Allen. And Rios actually said something earlier when we were talking before the show, like a couple days ago, that made me think about Josh Allen. He said it about Jared Goff, but I think it applied to Josh Allen too. And he talked about managing expectations. And you hit on it more tonight. And here's the thing with Josh Allen, okay? He was like super high ceiling, right? But like kind of a risky move. Traded up to get him at 7 overall. Out of University of Wyoming. I saw him play in college. Pretty cool. Stood next to him once at the bookstore. No big deal. Not as close as I am to Sean McVay, but
is he tall?
He's huge. He's a huge person. Sometimes like I'll be standing next to someone and I'm like, I have to like look like that up to them, and they don't seem like that big. And then I remember I'm 6'3", and I'm like, oh, okay, well, you're a monster. So yeah, he's huge. So Josh Allen came into the league, and he kind of was what we thought he was, right? Crazy big arm, inaccurate, really bad completion percentage and accuracy aren't the same thing, but not a good completion percentage either. Ran for a ton of yards per game. Throwing to Kelvin Benjamin, though, by the way. So, like, we kind of have to cut him a little bit of a break. So, here's what I'll say about Josh Allen. He got hurt his first year. He didn't play a full season. But all he's ever done is get better. And what I was kind of concerned about with Jared Goff earlier, with how, at least statistically speaking, and, you know, there's more factors, but statistically speaking, Jared Goff is regressing. Josh Allen is doing the exact opposite, and he's done the exact opposite every single year for the 3 years he's been in the league. He increased his completion percentage by 6% from year 1 to year 2 and 10% from year 2 to year 3. His touchdown percentage is higher. His interception percentage is lower. He's running the ball less. They'll run him they'll give him like 3 or 4 plays of a designed run, but he's taken off and running less. His rushing yards per game is at least it's been in his career. His passing yards per game is almost 100 yards more than it was last year. And it's just like, as a Bills fan, I'm really excited about the future because even though he's not the best quarterback, okay? He fumbles too much. But every time when I was talking about managing expectations, it's like he fumbles the ball way too much. But then I also kind of have to remember, like, okay, but he fumbled the ball while trying to scramble and run for a first down. And you like it when he runs for the first down and he seals the game in the fourth quarter and they run out the clock. So it's like you can't be like, I need you to score 2 rushing touchdowns to have a chance to win this game, but then also freak out every time he fumbles the ball, because it's like you just kind of have to take it with the territory if that's the kind of game you want to play. And I think Buffalo's done a really good job of giving him weapons. They made the move for Stephon Diggs in the offseason. They signed their left tackle, Deion Dawkins, to a long-term deal. They're doing kind of the running back committee thing, but they're doing it with 2 rookies on 2 rookie contracts. And I just really like the direction they're going, and I think Josh Allen could be the man for the job. And I don't know. I think I've seen enough that all he's done is what's ever been asked of him. And I think that he's a guy you can proverbially hitch your wagon to and try to make a run.
I would like to give out a special shout out before we start criticizing Josh Allen. I do want to say Brandon Beane acquiring Stephon Diggs in a trade was big time for the Bills.
Big.
They really needed an all-pro pass catcher, and just getting that, I think it's shown that it's helped Josh Allen develop and improve his stats. So, and now we see what's happening with the Vikings. I mean, they lose Stephon Diggs, and was it 5-6?
All right, welcome back, everybody. A little technical difficulties, but we're back and we're rolling.
Yeah. So let's see where we left off with Josh Allen talk.
Yep.
Yeah, I think overall, I mean, with Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming, it was the inaccuracy that was alarming. But like Will said earlier, he's progressed year after year after year. But there's one thing that I'd be a little concerned with. It comes playoff time. I think he makes some really interesting decisions.
He let the pressure get to him.
There's a lot of pressure in the playoffs.
The moment was big, and he kind of freaked out.
Come playoff time, everything is magnified. And that's when, I wouldn't say Josh Allen's proved everything he can in the regular season, because I think there's a little consistency year after year we need to see. But, from everything I've seen so far this year, he's been impressive. But playoffs is where that next step comes, because when he was playing against the Texans in Houston, I know there was a couple plays, like a lateral play he had made. There's a couple things that I think he wishes he probably had back.
It's the classic trying to do too much situation.
Yep.
The thing I like about Josh Allen, though, even in the playoffs, even then, there's always that floor. He has a very high floor, just solely on the fact that he's so athletic. So even when he's out there making crazy throws, whatever, his arm is always there and his legs are always there. And he's always going to be able to make that play when it needs to be made. So even when he's not, when it's not clicking for him as far as the passing game's going, he always has that high floor, and he could always, get the yards that are, he could always get a couple yards here and there with his feet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's obviously. I mean, it's good for the playoffs. When you need, to get your offense in rhythm and stuff. It definitely gets your momentum on your side of the ball.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the future and the way it's going, and I expect the Bills to lock him up, give him a huge monster contract, and keep him in Buffalo for a long time because he seems like the kind of guy who wants to be there too. So I am anticipating that he will be the guy for a long time.
Yeah, one concern I'd have with Buffalo, just in general with the offense, when you have a defensive-minded head coach and you have success offensively, especially at the quarterback position, you start seeing attrition from the coaching staff.
Oh yeah.
And so I know Brian DeBall is starting to get some buzz around coaching circles.
Yeah, he actually interviewed for a head coaching position last year, and it would definitely not be surprising if he'll interview somewhere this offseason too. So it's funny, Bills fans wanted to fire him in the beginning of last year. You know how the fan bases are, but there was a single change that changed everything, and it was halfway through the year last year. He moved off the sidelines for the first time, and he moved into the press box, and it's been like a whole different ball game ever since then, which is really interesting. I mean, you could see that mattering a little bit, but it's mattered a lot, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see.
It'll be interesting to see what happens if he ends up taking a job, because we'll get to see how Josh Allen can adapt, because you've seen elite offensive coaches like Kyle Shanahan leave the Falcons, and look what happened to Matt Ryan. That offense wasn't the same.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was still really good, but it wasn't as dynamic as it was with Kyle Shanahan there. But that'll be a true test to see how mature Josh Allen is with another voice in that coaching room, especially from the offensive side.
It's a good point.
Definitely interesting to watch. All right, you guys want to go into talk about Old Man Phil?
Old Man Rivers.
Old Man Rivers.
Old Man Rivers.
Yep. Yeah. So I guess I'll start with, the Colts are technically in a quarterback purgatory right now. They're trying to figure out who the next signal caller is, ever since Andrew Luck retired. And so they went from Brissett to Old Man Rivers. And last year, they actually were 30th in the NFL in passing yards. And so going into the season, I didn't really have expectations with Old Man Rivers in terms of numbers. It's like touchdowns and interceptions. I was more looking for team passing yards, and I wanted to see a top 15 passing attack to go with a top 5 rushing attack. And I think that would almost equal or produce 9 wins, which might be enough to get in the playoffs. And so far, I think Phillip Rivers has met those expectations and somewhat exceeded those expectations, because I think his knowledge of the offense, because he worked with Frank Reich in San Diego or LA, San Diego, when the Chargers were in San Diego, he was there. So, I think there's continuity there. And Nick Sirianni was the wide receiver coach with the Chargers, and now he's the OC of the Colts. And so, Phillip Rivers, you could say he's the master of this offense. From a physical standpoint, I mean, he's 38 years old. He doesn't have the arm strength like he used to have, but he knows where to put the ball at the right time during the right play. So, overall, I would say, he's met to slightly exceed my expectations, just because the expectations were really low going in, because I envisioned, a similar offense to what Peyton did for the Broncos his last year. He was the mastermind on the field, making the right play at the right time. I know Peyton didn't have the best numbers, and I know he was benched for Brock Osweiler, but at the same time, that's kind of what I was expecting from Phillip Rivers. And I mean, I also expected a complimentary run game to go with it as well, but that hasn't produced yet.
So, knowing what you know now, do you wish that the Colts pursued a free agent in the offseason or drafted a quarterback higher than they did instead of going with Rivers, or if you could do it over again, would you have Rivers playing again this year?
Given the circumstances during the pandemic, I wouldn't have changed a thing. You know, I think continuity is a pretty big deal, especially with the limited practice. Because I don't think there would have been a guy you could bring in that could pick up the offense as quick as Phillip Rivers. That's why I wouldn't go with Jameis. I wouldn't go with Tom Brady. I would stick with Phillip Rivers.
Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton's very intriguing. I think he'd be above Tom Brady and Jameis Winston in terms of quarterbacks for the Colts, but I'd give the edge to Phillip Rivers just because of his knowledge of the offense.
You take Andy Dalton over Tom Brady?
I would, yeah.
Why?
The reason why, because I think Tom Brady, you know, he had a lot of success with the Patriots due to certain concepts they run. Everything's short, quick rhythm passing. And I don't think Frank Reich – I think he'd mesh with Frank Reich, but I also think that decision is higher than the head coach GM. I don't think Jim Irsay would sign off on picking Tom Brady as the quarterback.
Yeah, but if would Jim
the-
Irsay sign off on picking him is different than would you rather have Andy Dalton or Phillip Rivers or Tom Brady?
Oh, Andy Dalton over Tom Brady? Yeah, I think Andy Dalton.
If you could have had, if Jim Irsay was like, get me Tom Brady, would Gene Merriman be like, I want Tom Brady as the Colts quarterback over any of the other options?
Oh, I would take Andy Dalton over Tom Brady.
Dude, that is the hottest take we've ever had on Meet Me at the Coffee Pot.
Why?
I think the reason why I think Andy Dalton's solid. I think he's a solid quarterback. And I think part of it might just be my dislike for the Patriots and Tom Brady. The reason why I would not pick Tom Brady.
I think that's 100% what it is.
It has to be.
There's no
doesn't have to be
football answer.
You know, I think Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I think he's old.
There's a hot take.
And I don't know how many years he has left. You know, I don't.
Yeah, but how many years does Phillip Rivers have left?
Phillip Rivers just as old as he is, almost.
There's a 4-year difference.
You say that, but I think as far as I think they had the same amount of time left in the league.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, Tom Brady's gonna play.
You know, potentially. You know, I think Tom Brady's good. Like I wouldn't be mad if he was the Colts quarterback. But with saying that, I think we'd get a little bit more from Andy Dalton just because of the mobility factor. You know, I think he has the ability to extend the play a little bit more than Tom Brady. And I wouldn't say Tom Brady's a statue back there, but I feel like you really have to. I think you're limited offensively with Tom Brady as opposed to Andy Dalton.
So you said you would take Phillip Rivers, Andy Dalton, and then Tom Brady.
Yes.
Those three quarterbacks.
Yep.
And you say you'd rather have Andy Dalton over Tom Brady because he's more mobile and he can extend the play. How is Phillip Rivers above Andy Dalton then? Because Phillip Rivers is not the most mobile quarterback. He's also very
Phillip Rivers is above Andy Dalton because of the knowledge of the offense.
Yeah, but then Tom Brady is more knowledgeable than both of them.
Dude, Tom Brady would pick it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
He'd figure it out.
I mean, yeah, he might pick it up. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think with the limited offseason with the pandemic that Tom Brady can walk right in there and get this Frank Reich offense like Phillip Rivers.
Dude, is it that unlockable? Is Phillip Rivers the only person on the planet who could have cracked open the playbook and been like, I see it?
I'm not saying he's the only person that can crack open the playbook. I think he can crack it open sooner than anyone else.
You don't think the best quarterback of all time could go down there and read Frank Reich's playbook?
Yeah, but wouldn't you rather be like, all right, listen, we'll lose the first 2 games of the year, okay? Tom Brady's getting up to speed.
You guys lost to the Jaguars anyway.
Because of the uncrackable Frank Reich offense. But then game 3 on, we have Tom Brady.
I think
Gene hates Tom Brady, dude.
I think so too. I think Tom Brady beats the Jaguars week 1.
There's a lot of factors in play.
I'm gonna tweet that out.
There's the comfort level with Frank Reich. There's the offense. There's a lot of factors in play.
Comfort level, chemistry, momentum, all these things are overrated.
You don't like the buzzwords?
First of all, I hate the buzzwords. Second of all, I think they're overrated.
I think
Locker
your
room
dislike for
chemistry,
Tom Brady is
continuity. It's
clouding your
overrated, dude.
judgment.
He's
I
like the
just-
greatest football player of all time.
No, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong.
I'm not getting you wrong.
He's a great player. He's a great player. But I think the fit overall, I would prefer Andy Dalton over Tom Brady.
Man,
Oh, what a
You can tear me apart all you want.
this is the thing. If you were just like, I don't think Tom Brady, I wouldn't have been that excited to get Tom Brady as a Colts fan because I don't think it would have been that good of a fit and he's at the end of his career. I'd have been like, fair enough. But if I was like, no, you have him, you'd be like, nah, thanks. That's kind of insane. That's wild.
Speaking of Tom Brady, so we're talking about quarterbacks anyway. Why is Bruce Arians running this like crazy throw the ball deep offense? Why hasn't Tom Brady been like, hey, maybe we should go back to like what I've won 6 Super Bowls with and maybe run some, shorter routes and get the ball out quick. And I mean, it doesn't help that his running backs can't catch the ball to save their lives. That's one of Tom Brady's go-to.
Yeah, dude.
But
as great as
I
Tom
think-
Brady is, he's spent 85% of his career dumping the ball off immediately to the running back or throwing it to the slot wide receiver. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not a bad thing. He's really, really good at it. And even teams with really good pass rushes, like years that the Bills have had really good defenses, they couldn't even touch him. Because, one, he was schematically one step ahead of the defense. And two, they were just so disciplined that their execution was flawless and that you could never touch them. So it's right. You're right. It's like, I guess Bruce Arians is like the most stubborn, hard-headed coach ever because he's like, no, I'm going to take the greatest quarterback of all time and mold him into my system.
If you look at what the Patriots did against the Rams in the Super Bowl, where they, pretty much just
neutralize Aaron Donald by passing
right behind him, like not far, they just like went right behind him, and Aaron Donald's completely out of the game. They did the opposite of that when they tried to play the Rams, like when Tampa Bay played the Rams this year, and they were trying to like pick on our DBs who are probably the best in the league, arguably. And San Francisco did it. You look at the next week and you see what San Francisco did, and they did exactly what the Patriots did to us, where they just dumped it off to slot receivers to Deebo Samuel mostly, and he just ran over our offense, but our defense. But the fact that they're throwing all these, double moves, these slow developing routes with Tom Brady, like you have to get the ball out of Tom Brady's hands quicker than that. Like that's his only downfall is he doesn't do well under pressure. Like that's the only thing.
Wait, you're saying Tom Brady does not do well under pressure?
Yeah,
he doesn't mean game time. He doesn't mean game situation pressure.
No,
He means like physical gun getting
pressure
sacked.
when there's people in his face
due to his lack of mobility.
That's part of it.
I mean, it doesn't help. Yeah.
I think, I mean, Tom Brady's 42 years old, and I do think that there might be a little bit of regression in his throwing talent. I don't think he can zip the ball like he used to. And I think that's a big factor, especially with the Bruce Arians offense.
There's definitely regression, but what we were saying is that Andy Dalton isn't young either. And as far
no, I think they're both good players, but I do think Tom Brady, he's definitely regressed. But I think you can still win with him. I mean, you can still win with him in the right offense. And I think the Bruce Arians offense is very intriguing because I think it puts up big numbers and it's quarterback friendly. I think just with what he did with Carson Palmer with the Cardinals and at his age too, I think if I was Tom Brady, I think the Buccaneers would be my first choice because of what he did with Carson Palmer and those older quarterbacks. And he's worked with a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of elite quarterbacks, Andrew Luck, Ben Roethlisberger. And I think Tom Brady, I don't know what his choice was. I actually heard the Colts was actually one of his top choices. His camp, tried to get him to go to Indianapolis. But I don't think the Colts had mutual interest with him compared to Phillip Rivers. But I do think it's really intriguing, the Bruce Arians offense because of the big numbers you can put up.
I think
and with
Tampa because of the talent of wide receiver there.
Oh yeah.
He's walking
tired of not having weapons for the last 20 years.
Yeah, he's walking into the probably two of the best wide receivers he's ever had. With the exception of maybe Randy Moss and I don't know what other receivers. Did he play with Deion Branch? I guess maybe he's pretty good.
He did.
He's pretty good, I guess. But I mean, Mike Evans and Godwin are probably two of the best. I don't know, 5 receivers Tom Brady has ever had.
I would totally agree. Dude, on the Pro Football Reference page for Tom Brady, it lists one of his nicknames as the Pharaoh.
That's what I call him.
Has anyone ever heard that? Have you ever heard him be called the Pharaoh?
I call him that all the time.
That's
wait. So Tom Brady has a nickname, the Pharaoh?
These are Tom Brady's official, unofficial nicknames listed at Pro Football Reference. TB12, Tom Terrific, Touchdown Tom, Goat, the Pharaoh, the Comeback Kid, and Sir.
All right, I'm looking at
it.
Wild. That's wild to me. Josh Allen doesn't have one.
No nicknames?
He's nicknameless.
I think Jared Goff's nickname's probably like the Giraffe or something.
The Scarecrow.
Phillip
Rivers doesn't have any either, and he's like a zillion years old, so he's doing something wrong.
All right. Who do you guys think is taking the MVP this year?
Oh, probably Patrick Mahomes.
I think Russell Wilson has a case. I also think Derrick Henry does too.
I think Derrick Henry does too, but they don't give it to running backs, dude.
I don't like that MVP is the best quarterback in the league. It's not even like the most valuable player to the team. It's whoever the best quarterback in the league is. That's the MVP.
It's stupid. It's a sham award. Jared Goff's nickname is listed as Mr. Perfect.
That's awesome. Yeah, makes sense.
Perfect.
Tom, I mean, if you look at, I think Russell Wilson might make a run for it just because if you look at their schedule coming up, they have, I think, the NFC East and the Jets coming up. So Russell Wilson's numbers are probably going to be awesome these next 4 or 5 weeks.
And Russell Wilson, he's never won one. Right? No. And everyone loves him. So that's half of the MVP is like
he's never got
to people who haven't yet. That's crazy.
Well, it's not though, because if you look at the years where he would have won it, it's always something crazy happening. Like last season, for example, he had an awesome year, but you're not gonna not give it to Lamar Jackson who had the craziest year. The year before that, Russell Wilson had an awesome year, but you're not gonna not give it to Patrick Mahomes who had a record-setting 50 touchdown season. So every time Russell Wilson has an awesome year, someone else just does a little better. He's definitely the most consistent. If there was like a MVP for the decade, I think that's easily Russell Wilson.
Well, I think Gene might be right then.
About what?
Russell Wilson, MVP.
You think that was?
I think he's definitely a candidate. He's definitely a candidate. I mean, that'd be really cool to see him win it. It's interesting to see because, like, if you look at that 2012 draft class, was he drafted in the 3rd round? RG3, Andrew Luck, Nick Foles was in that class. Tannehill was in that class. And Andrew, that's a lot of good players. Early on.
That would be a good 30 for 30. RG3, Andrew Luck. I think they were back-to-back, right?
Yep.
And only one is still in the league.
Yeah. I remember when the world freaked out when Andrew Luck, retired halfway through a preseason game? That was pretty cool.
Dude, yeah, that was a sad day.
The worst thing was then like 4 weeks later he posted a picture like, "Hey guys, hanging out with my friends at the Colts facility. I don't work here anymore, but I still like you." And everyone's like, "Either leave or don't."
You could play with our emotions.
Yeah, just put pads on, you jerk. That was strange, man. It really. I mean, where would the Colts be right now? The Colts are 7-4. You know what I mean? And they're a solid team. With Phillip Rivers, just imagine.
Yeah.
Just imagine.
Can you imagine if they had Tom Brady instead of Phillip Rivers?
They'd probably be undefeated.
Probably. Yeah, they'd be unstoppable.
Definitely would have beat the Jaguars.
Dude, they'd be at least 7-4. Okay, come on. This is ridiculous.
They would be unstoppable with Tom Brady. Unstoppable.
They'd be at least 8-3.
At least. They would have beaten the Titans.
Gene's getting defensive.
No, I'm fine.
I'm not saying they would have swept the Titans. They did beat the Titans once, but they definitely would have beat the Jaguars week 1.
Possibly, yeah.
Tom Brady doesn't lose to the Jaguars.
That's a good point.
He almost did one
Yeah.
time, and then the ref saved him.
All right, let's do a rookie quarterback roundup.
Ooh.
Let's kind of hit on the rookies and give our thoughts on that. First of all, we'll just start with Joe Burrow because
Well, let's start here. I'm gonna ask you this.
okay.
If knowing what you know now, going back, would you and you guys were picking, one,
Who are you
2,
talking
3, either one of you guys. Would you guys pick the quarterbacks, the three main rookie quarterbacks, the one that people are talking about, Burrow, Tua, and Herbert? Would you guys pick them in the same order that they were picked, or who would you guys pick first?
Joe Burrow.
Knowing what I know now, like blown out knees and all, do I know that?
No, healthy. I guess 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Would you?
Yeah, I would go the same order. For sure.
What was the order? It was
Burrow, Tagovailoa, Herbert.
Yeah, I'd probably say that. I definitely Joe Burrow number one. I think I might take Herbert over Tua at this point.
And then you know who was taken fourth?
Who?
Jordan Love.
Oh, shit. I forgot about that.
Throw him in the mix.
Probably take him first. I think I agree with Gene on that one. I think I'd take, from what I've seen, I mean, obviously there's not enough game film on Tua yet, but I think I'd take Herbert over Tua.
He's looked really, really good. And he doesn't have – he's just
playing,
like – he's
playing
bigger and
under
stronger, and
Anthony
he
Lynn.
doesn't have a history of – like an injury history. So that's
He's
a good
playing
point.
under Anthony Lynn, who is proven to be a horrible coach.
Yeah, it kind of makes you feel like Herbert feels to me like he's overachieved, and he's also being held back by the Chargers coaching staff. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you talked me into it. I'd like to change my mind.
You can't do that. You can't do it on the podcast. You can't change your mind.
All right, I'm going to sign off.
once you say it, it's good. Once you
logging
say it,
out.
it's official.
I'm logging out.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
now you want to do the rookie roundup?
Yeah, go for it.
Joe Burrow, so disappointing. I'm not a Bengals fan, but like as a fan of a miserable franchise, you kind of like cheer for other miserable franchises. And it was like exciting to see the Bengals get a guy who could be the man. And I told Gene last night when we were talking on the phone, I told Gene they should have got their guy at number one and then spent every other freaking available resource developing the offensive line and protecting him. Like free agency. And I told Gene I would have drafted 5 linemen and figured out who was the best. Okay. Because it's like, you're going to suck anyway. So how about you like get the guy who could be your future, protect him, have him have confidence and have like an intact body going into the next year. And if the defense sucks, then you win 3 games, then the defense sucks and you win 3 games. Like or if you need a weapon here in like, a wide receiver because AJ Green moved on or whatever, that's like address that later. But like you can't don't address those needs before you figure out how to not kill your quarterback. And they didn't do that. And so now they got their quarterback killed and it sucks.
I completely
The
agree.
Bengals have to fire their coach.
Here's the thing.
And their general manager.
I agree. I completely agree. And you say it's disappointing that he got hurt, and it is for us. But, I mean, if you watch the way he was getting hit all season, it looked painful. Like he would, at least once a game, there was a highlight of Joe Burrow getting destroyed by some linebacker or some DB just coming down and killing him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only a matter of time. Like if you watch it, you're like, oh, this guy's going to get hurt. He's at least going to get a concussion at some point because he's getting destroyed all the time.
Why not just like win one game but have a good line? You know what I mean? It's just like, it's really disappointing.
Trust the
I mean, you can't blame everything on the offensive line though. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I mean, if it's 3rd and 17, you don't drop back and just launch it.
You
got to screen or draw because you got to protect your franchise.
And that's where the fire of the head coach comes into play.
Yeah, because you can't. First off, if you drop back like that, there's a chance for a turnover, and you put your defense in a bad situation as it is. You can just do a draw or a screen, punt the football, and then you have your quarterback next series.
it's not even on 3rd and 17. I think the head coach has to understand that his offensive line isn't very good.
Yeah.
And he's calling these, 5-7 step drops with double moves that have to develop. And it's just, there's not enough time. You have to you have to find a way to either slow down the rush or have faster, quicker developing plays. And I think that's on the head coach.
And now it's like maybe too late because he'll be back, but that could be a devastating, career-altering knee injury, and I really hope it's not. But it's like, well, you had your 8 games. Good job, Bengals. Frustrating.
That is. I think he'll be back.
Anyone want to take a stab at Zach Taylor's head coaching record?
Doesn't he have like 2 wins?
In 27 games.
225?
He's 4-22-1. It's like, you take it easy when you give your coach a break when you first hire him, but it's like, are you really missing some diamond in the rough if you're going to cut bait? You know what I mean?
They don't fire head coaches there, though.
I know. It's the whole it's like Jay and I were talking again too about like the Lions, like top down, like ownership down on the Lions is messed up. Okay, we could get into that, and it's like there's just dysfunctional franchises, and I guess it's like that's just what they're gonna be.
And I agree. I think, but the Bengals, they don't fire the head. How long was it
Marv Lewis?
Marv Lewis there. How long was he there?
I'll look it up, dude. I don't know. 12 years.
He was there for a long time.
And how many winning seasons did he have? I think
he was there from
maybe
2003 to 2018.
They made the playoffs a couple times with Andy Dalton.
Yeah,
my boy.
He had like 2.
He actually made.
He had a couple.
Listen to this. Does it feel like this happened? They made the playoffs. The Bengals made the playoffs every year from 2011 to 2015.
You know who their quarterback was, right?
No. The Red Rocket?
The Red Rocket, yep. Andy Dalton himself. Could have been a Colt.
Could have been a Colt. I want to point out for the record, before I talk more about the Bengals for some reason, I bet you I can find our text conversations, Gene, where I was saying the Colts should pursue Andy Dalton, and you were like, no. So I'm not anti-Andy Dalton. I've said, because I never thought Tom Brady would go to Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I said that they should get Andy Dalton. Anyway, Marv Lewis went to the playoffs 7 years in 15 tries, which actually for the Bengals is like the greatest head coach ever. It's not even close. But they lost the wild card game 7 times in a row. That's tough.
You know what you need to do? Look up his coaching tree. There's some really good coaches that have come out of the Bengals, especially during those playoff appearances. I wouldn't say runs because they didn't win many games, but Paul Gunther, he's the DC, I think, with the Raiders. Vance Joseph was there. There's been who was the Washington football team's Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden was there. He's had
Mike
a lot
Zimmer.
Yeah. There's been a lot of coaches that have come out of the Cincinnati pipeline.
Okay. What are your thoughts on Tua so far?
I don't think we've seen him enough, honestly. I think so the game that I actually I watched him play against the Rams, obviously, and he didn't do anything against us. Our defense is pretty good, though, so, and that was his first start. So he didn't do well. His defense was able to, Jared Goff was able to throw enough interceptions to make up for it, and he got his win. But then I think it's time against Arizona the next week, and that was kind of a shootout with Kyler Murray. I think he's mobile. He has a pretty good arm. He's pretty accurate, and I think the more he plays and the more comfortable he is with the playbook, I think the better he'll be for sure.
I think he's in a good culture in Miami. I think they got a good coaching staff. I think they lack a bit of talent still, so they're going to lose games that way. But I think that he's in a good environment, and the Dolphins are set up to really challenge for the AFC East in the future, I think.
And they also have the Houston Texans pick, so maybe they can add some talent in the first round. I think it's really interesting with lefty quarterbacks because you have to find an elite right tackle to protect the blind side. And one thing I thought was surprising with Alabama, Jedrick Wills, he was drafted by the Browns to play left tackle, but he was a right tackle at Alabama. And he kind of, when you evaluate prospects, one thing that you don't really think about was people switching from left tackle to right tackle and how easy or hard it could be. And so I think one of the things with the Dolphins, they'll have to figure out how to protect Tua. So I'm not sure how easy it is to find an elite right tackle or find a left tackle that can play right tackle.
Well, we already kind of talked about Herbert, and then, the other two rookies coming out of the draft are Jordan Love, who has not done anything, and Jalen Hurts, who a lot of Eagles fans wish was playing, but he really he gets a snap or two every game, but he hasn't. We haven't seen a lot from him yet.
Hand the ball off. That was funny. Everyone got excited because he came in for a play.
Oh, yeah.
All he did was hand the ball off.
They're like, they finally benched Wentz.
Nope.
All right. Well, I think that kind of, wraps up the quarterback talk. I think the biggest takeaway from this episode is that Andy Dalton's the greatest quarterback to have ever lived.